Sounds great. Okay. So this presentation is something that I've been researching for about the past month, the current trends and certain articles that you don't get to see that is necessarily translated into English. And obviously some of the opinions here that I give are something that is not set in stone. So if my comments do rile you up, please, I am open to criticism and I'm open to other thoughts. So please, during the Q&A, I think we can discuss some more about that. So without further ado, let me start my presentation on can South Korea catch up in the battery race. So when we talk about South Korea, I think we really need to start talking about the history and overall emergence of the sector. And quite weird to start off with cassettes, but this is where really the battery industry has bloomed. So as you can see here, this cassette is manufactured by Sony. And as you know, Sony is the world's first commercializer of lithium-ion batteries. In 1991, they licensed patents from Asahi Kasei, which is right now the largest separator manufacturing company. And the main motivator why Sony wanted to manufacture these lithium-ion batteries is that the cassette tape manufacturing process is actually very similar to the electrode manufacturing process as we know today. So they directly use their cassette tape manufacturing process and implemented to their electrode manufacturing process. And this is what we know as the 1991 Sony lithium-ion batteries. And in a country not too far away from Japan, only a few hundred kilometers away, South Korea caught up with Sony's referral of technology. And as you can see here in the cassette, this was one of the most popular cassettes in South Korea. And AX60 is not the company's name, but as you can see here, a familiar name, SKC, was the company that was very specialized in manufacturing cassettes. So this is the SK On, previously SK Innovation and SK Chemical, as you know today. So SK is credited as South Korea's first commercial player for lithium-ion batteries. So was it just cassettes that spurred the innovation of lithium-ion batteries in South Korea? No, that's not the case. So when we look at the direct motivation to pursue R&D of lithium-ion batteries in South Korea, we first need to directly compare electronics with the human body. And I would say that the three most important components are the brain, the face, as well as the heart. So when we try to directly compare these body parts with electronics, we first see that the brain is very comparable with semiconductors, and Samsung, SK being the two most prominent companies. And when we talk about the face, the display is another important factor. We also have Samsung and LG leading. And what good is it to just have brains and a face? We also need the heart to get the system going. So this is the main motivation of why South Korean companies wanted to pursue the development of lithium-ion batteries. And more to this is that Japan banned the exports of lithium-ion batteries as they wanted to protect their technology. So this further spurred and stimulated the demand for R&D within South Korea. And at this time, as you know, Mitsubishi Chemical was the benchmark company as it produced all four core battery materials. And this is what the large companies in South Korea wanted. So almost all chaebols, so this is called chaebol or chaebol cheje within South Korea. And what this means are the large companies that have overtaken the South Korean market. And this includes the companies, as you see here, SK, Samsung, LG, but other familiar names are Hyundai, Daewoo, Doosan, and the list goes on. And most of these companies in the 1990s pursued R&D and capex investments to grow lithium-ion battery technologies. So in South Korea, there was a large belief not only that the best batteries or the best hearts will produce the better brains and the faces, but there was a large belief already in the 1990s that the EV transition would occur. So as you can see here, this is the 1991 Hyundai EV that is based off the Sonata platform. So this brags an astounding range of 44 miles and a top speed of 37 miles per hour. But Hyundai developed it a little bit more in 1995 with a concept Accent EV with a mile of range of 242 with a top speed of 87 miles per hour. But obviously, as you can see, it was never commercialized. So this briefly summarizes how South Korea's battery industry came to be. And now we talk about more of the trends and the investment theses to support K battery growth. And to let you know, I'm a little biased here because, as I've said to Magnus, I am ethnically Korean. So I'd like to give you some proponents and arguments of why I believe the K battery will be spurring in the next few years. Now, we start off with K batteries competitiveness. So right now, our expectation, or a few of the investment community's expectations within South Korea, is that the K batteries time will come in 2025 and 2026. And why do I say this when news media outlets say that K batteries are dying? You can see some of the articles here from South Korean news media outlets, Reuters, and you can find a plethora of articles. But what they say is, for example here, K battery encroached by China, ... dim market prospects, and also South Korean auto battery firms take on Chinese rivals, but with trepidation. So the sentiment, as you can see here, is not that well for K batteries. But why do I argue that the prime phases will be 25 and 26? I'll get to this. So the main motivator, or the reason why the industry has been giving a negative sentiment to South Korea, is that there is an overall shift in the sentiment towards using NMCAs to LFPs. And if you divide that by country, this is from going from South Korea and Japan to China. But this is where K batteries competitiveness comes into play. The OEMs and the battery cell manufacturers in South Korea has developed extensive relationships for the past 10, 15 years. And as a case study, in 2000, one of the battery cell manufacturers in Korea provided one OEM with 10 years worth of cycling data at 25 degrees C to show the potency and the trustworthiness of lithium-ion batteries as a replacement to ICE or gasoline vehicles. And as you know, if there are any OEM employees here, OEMs are heavily conservative with implementing new technologies or innovations, or to be more safe, they want to work with players that have been validated with their technology. And you know that even if you're a big player, if you come out with a new technology, the chain of validation goes from power electronics, e-bikes, micromobility, and then you don't just go to the BEV, you have to go to the HEV, the PHEV, and then finally you can arrive at the BEV. So the point here is that trusted cycling data and quality must exist before those battery materials or those new battery cells are implemented into EVs. Now, let's talk more about China at this moment. So the large spur in China's EV market was accelerated by government incentives. As you may know or may not know, in 2011, the Chinese government implemented what's known as the Chinese car license lottery, in which the license must be earned over a great long time. And because these licenses are so valuable, their prices have skyrocketed. And because it's very hard to gain these licenses, there have been news reports that people have been fake marrying to get these licenses. But to get rid of all that hassle of fake marriage, there is an exemption in which these Chinese users can use, which is that if they purchase an EV that is made in China with Chinese batteries, they're able to gain that Chinese license. So this is the main motivator, and the government incentives that was poured out into the lithium-ion battery industry really spurred that innovation. So that is the success story within China. But when we come back to South Korea or North America or Europe, that really isn't the case. Europe doesn't have a Chinese licensed lottery system, of course, and there's no incentive for the Chinese government to invest into the European or North American markets. So it still remains a question if Chinese players will be able to succeed in the larger mass markets. And also including this, aside from the larger companies, there is a lack of accumulated data with other EV cell suppliers or material suppliers with legacy makers in North America and South Korea. So coming down to all of this, the sentiment towards NMC to LFPs, is this more manufactured or is this natural because of the trend? Well, this is quite arguable, but I see that both can be argued at the same time. So let me quickly move on to just the overall sentiment and the usage of LFPs within battery cell manufacturers in South Korea. So we are seeing that a lot of the news media outlets talk about LFPs because of its low costs and its safety features. But when we really dig down to the foundations of it, LFPs are safe indeed, but they're highly contingent on the quality of the electrode as well as the cells. And low cost is a great value proposition for LFPs, but this is more seen as a temporary measure, implementing LFPs in batteries to momentarily decrease EV prices. Obviously, OEMs are coming out with new vehicles with loss leaders mostly. Not really many companies can turn a profit with EVs at these days. However, because loss leading strategies are not sustainable, they're always looking for ways to widen margins or even save margins at these times. So right now, LFPs may be used temporarily, but if the whole value chain becomes more robust and structured, there can be a long-term shift to NCMs. And just going back to safety as well, poorly made LFPs, they will be poor with thermal shock as well as overcharge. So LFPs have more merit within mega ESS applications, especially for tall structures in which safety is a must. We see that LFPs will be more used with ESS rather than EV OEMs going forward in the future. So just going on to the next slide here, why we argue using NCMs instead of LFPs for OEMs is that right now in South Korea, there is a large trend with battery materials manufacturers and battery cell manufacturers using high voltage mid-nickel cathode chemistries. And what this especially does is that the battery materials manufacturers are trying to manufacture cathodes that are more agnostic to price fluctuations. So for one of the companies in South Korea, they have a matrix that ranges from 10 to 30 USD per kilogram for the nickel prices. And they try to spot out the cathode material prices based on those fluctuating nickel prices. And right now, the biggest non-fluctuating cathode chemistry is this high voltage mid-nickel cathode chemistry. And this is what South Korea is trying to pump out from its factories. And especially for the three battery cell manufacturers, it is a known fact that LFPs will not be majorly integrated within those cells being sold in the next 5 years. And also moving on to another trend, there is an ease in the supply chain or costs with vertical integration being pursued by OEMs. And one of the more notable transactions here in the space is that Hyundai is going to invest 9.5 billion to integrate mining of minerals, even cell design and manufacturing, especially with their nickel Indonesian joint venture. So this is going to span up to about 2032 as well. And the last point here is a chasm-caused K battery market share increase. And what this is that we know that the EV battery industry is in a chasm. However, it might be a hard time for these three battery cell manufacturers to pump out cells or increase the utilization rate. However, on the flip side, new battery cell manufacturers or startups, they are losing contracts. Some are going even bankrupt. And also legacy makers that wanted to integrate battery manufacturing capabilities are having a hard time finding that. So they're giving up on those plans. So what happens when the chasm ends and the acceleration grows again? Well, this will be all directed into K battery firms, especially in the US, as well as Canada, as well as the European market. So the actual future sentiment of the overall battery market might not be NCMs to LFPs, but it might be LFPs to NCMs for the EV OEM applications. Quickly moving on here. Another proponent of arguing why K batteries can win is that there is a value proposition for using Hyundai Kia's economy cars. Now, we know that more of the EV adoption will be spurred by better performing batteries as well as lower battery costs. However, there are also EVs that can spur counterintuitively the demand for batteries. Right now, Hyundai Kia, they are releasing economy compact cars. And when we really talk about the EV chasm, this should be more defined to EV chasm for expensive, unaffordable models. Right now on the road, not really mid to low level priced EVs have been rolled out. However, from Kia, we're seeing the Kia EV3 being rolled out, and Hyundai Kia is known for having one of the lower cost, lighter, and longer range EVs within the sector. So Hyundai Kia right now has very ambitious targets to capture a majority of the North American and European markets. And obviously, this is just 1 month, but Kia US May BEV sales has reached somewhere around 7,200 vehicles. EV6 being the most popular, as that was the oldest line from the EV lines. But a new EV9 model, which is the SUV version, has gained immense popularity. And as you may be familiar, larger SUV cars are more popular in the US, and smaller compact cars are more popular within the European regions. But we also have the Nero BEV, which is the smaller compact car, gaining traction within the US as well. And I'd like to mention also that Hyundai Kia has a great platform transition or conversion into EVs from gasolines. And they also have a robust software so that they can be implemented as a great SDV onto the market. And this really compares with other automotive OEMs like Volkswagen investing into Rivian's platform, because the software problems that they experienced were quite dramatic. But right now with Hyundai Kia, we're seeing that the transition is happening very well. And really with gasoline powered cars, it's all mechanical. But with an EV, as you know, it's a big cell phone with wheels on it. So that's why Hyundai Kia right now has great software, great mechanics to become the next EV industry leader. So just to tie things up here, I know we're almost close, but when we talk about K battery risk, I've talked about all of the value propositions and the current industry trends in which the whole industry is going towards. But there is a key risk here, because South Korea has great expertise in the area of active materials manufacturing, whether it be cathodes, electrolyte separator, graphite. Quite arguable, but the whole battery cell manufacturing process, the value chain is very robust. But the whole, when we take a look at the whole value chain itself, from mining to minerals processing to materials processing, there is a great deficiency there from mining to precursor material processing. So we need to really reframe the question. It's more of not can South Korea catch up in the battery race, but it should be more of can South Korea catch up in the processing race. So right now within South Korea, looking at some data and metrics, almost 90% of cathode precursors are being imported in from China at this moment. And there is not a lot of great graphite spheroidization technology within South Korea. So the big risk comes with complying to IRA, especially with the new FEOC, foreign entity of concern, is implemented, because more of the critical minerals as well as the battery components have to be a greater portion that's not supplied from these FEOCs. But right now, looking at the whole industry trend in which 60% of lithium and 80% of cobalt refining is occurring within China, and precursor manufacturing, graphite manufacturing is all concentrated within China, K Battery needs to find a solution to mitigate this risk to increase their proportion of graphite spheroidization, as I said, as well as cathode precursor manufacturing technologies. Yes, so this briefly sums up my findings from the current South Korean race. And we expect that the South Korean market will especially be big beneficiaries in terms of the IRA, as well as other key battery trends. But obviously, there are risks that the industry needs to mitigate so far. So I believe that this is now the Q&A session of the talk. So please come on video if you want to, and I'd be happy to discuss about the talk today. Thank you.